So I've really been looking forward to this movie a long time. I'm not necessarily a massive King Kong or Godzilla fan. I mean, I enjoy those movies when I have checked them out in the past, and I like the more recent movies and was interested to see where they would go with that. But when I heard that they were going to sort of go the versus route, right, which is not necessarily a new thing. You think about Freddy versus Jason, Alien versus Predator, now we've got Godzilla versus Kong. I was excited about it because I do like the characters in these movies. I like the way they handle the CGI and the battle sequences, and so I wanted to check it out and see what it was all about. Now, the nice thing, I guess, about living in this day and age is that a lot of movies that show up in theaters also show up on things like HBO Max. And so, obviously, at this point, I'm not comfortable going to a theater quite yet. Hopefully, in the not-too-distant future, that will be a thing. I just got my second COVID shot yesterday, so 2 weeks from now, masked up, maybe I can make it to a theater. But I watched this on HBO Max last night, and I really had a great time with it. Now, it is one of those movies, as you might imagine, that you cannot think about at all, or the whole thing starts to crumble, and you lose any kind of enjoyment that you're having. And there are some weird plotting things that happen here. So, as always, here's a note for spoilers. You know, if you haven't seen it yet, go see the movie, then come back, and let's have that discussion. But here are my general thoughts about the plot and what we get out of it. So basically, in this movie, Godzilla shows up as a threat in Florida and begins attacking a facility that is manufacturing some kind of technology. Early on in the movie, you don't really know exactly what's going on, but you just see Godzilla arrive, start destroying everything as Godzilla does. And then, not long after that, you cut to Skull Island. And I gotta say, I really did love Kong Skull Island. I think out of all these movies, that's probably my favorite so far. But you cut to Skull Island. There's this facility that has been built around Kong. You know, how they were able to sedate him and build this gigantic facility, this kind of like a Truman Show type thing. Who knows? Who cares? He's in this giant bubble, and there is a benevolent scientist who's studying his every move, along with her daughter. And her daughter is deaf and is communicating with Kong using sign language. Now, this is not really that far-fetched. I mean, you've probably heard about, humans being able to communicate with gorillas and apes using some semblance of sign language. But it's kind of cool how they use it here. It's really minimal. It's not trying to push it too far and suggest that complex conversations are happening. But it creates this cool sort of dynamic between Kong and this little girl. Another scientist shows up and tells the scientist who's on Skull Island, I don't remember all of their names, and if I'm being totally honest, I don't really care to go and look it up. But anyway, this person shows up and says, hey, Godzilla is going on a rampage. He used to be our hero, but now he is a threat, and we need something to combat him. What we need to do is follow up on what this one scientist had identified as a hollow earth theory and get Kong to show them the way to the hollow earth. So, okay, this is where the plot starts to get just completely bonkers. And I mean, this movie goes all in, and I'm okay with that. That's what you want from this kind of movie. So, to make a long story short, this scientist, has this hypothesis that the Earth has sort of a layer around the core, sort of a hollow Earth, where Kong and Titans like Godzilla originated from. And so they're thinking that if they can get Kong to show them the way to the hollow earth, that there are resources and energies that they can draw upon to defeat Godzilla there, so on and so forth. It really doesn't make a whole lot of sense, and it gets especially weird when you see that Kong is part of a civilization from there. So a civilization that has things like axes and a throne and all of this weird stuff. But the civilization is gone, and I can only imagine that, if this movie is successful, which so far I think it has been, they're going to maybe explore this a little more deeply in future entries, but it's just weird, but what it is it's an excuse for Kong to go into another part of the world where there are giant monsters and defeat them and rip their heads off and gargle their innards, which is one thing that Kong does, and it's kind of awesome, but also kind of crazy. So anyway, all of this is the setup for the inevitable battle we get between Godzilla and Kong, and it does not disappoint. It takes place in Hong Kong, it's at nighttime, and you can actually see what's going on. If I had to complain about some of the earlier entries, especially in the modern Godzilla films, it's that sometimes in the dark it was hard to see what was happening, kind of like Alien vs. Predator Requiem at times, where you just couldn't make out what the action actually was. Here, there's no problem with that, right? Because there are all these neon lights and Hong Kong is well lit, you can see exactly what's going on, and it's a fantastic showdown. And really, without getting into the weeds too much, I guess, about what actually takes place, there is a clear winner here. And, again, I did post a spoiler warning before all of this, but, it's clear that Godzilla has won this battle. I mean, at one point he has Kong on the ground with his foot on him, and he could deliver a death blow, but he ultimately decides to let him live. For what reason? I don't know. Who really cares? It's obvious the reason really is because of money, so they can make movies in the future. But anyway, from there, we then get Mechagodzilla. So there had been some rumors online that Mechagodzilla was going to make an appearance here, but really, Mechagodzilla is the real enemy. I'm not going to get, again, into the details about how Mechagodzilla shows up. There's the bad guy who gives a speech. Bad guy dies. Mechagodzilla becomes, I guess, self-aware, sort of. Anyway, it becomes a thing that Godzilla and Kong have to team up to take down. And again, it's just a really sort of nice kind of cherry on top of this CGI, destruction fest that this movie really is. So yeah, is it an amazing movie? No. But is it great? Sure. I mean, I had a good time watching it. I ate a ton of popcorn as I sort of, settled into my recliner to watch this. I had a lot of fun with it. It's completely stupid, but it's also completely awesome. I mean, I don't really know what people kind of expect from this sort of movie, but it really delivers on the promise that it makes of giving us sort of that epic showdown that everyone wants to see. So if you've seen this movie, let me know what you think in the comments below, and let's have a little discussion about it.